Hi, friends. Okay, so got a big one for us today. I had this interesting, maybe I could call it an epiphany. It was certainly a moment of clarity that was kind of an outgrowth of my previous post. And if you happen to miss it, I talked about how I had listened to a Sadhguru audio where he talked about opposites being attracted to each other, but ultimately opposites never creating. The reason for the attraction in between two opposites is that we, as a polarity, and whatever side of a polarity we may find ourselves on, we are drawn to the opposite pole, the opposite polarity, because we recognize our own unity in our opposite. We see a complementary energy or identity or whatever in that opposite, and we hope that unifying those opposites will result in the experience of unity, oneness. But that doesn't work. That's a quick recap of what I was talking about yesterday. Where I kind of went next was, it was like a lateral move in the same plane of thinking, because I recognized, I was thinking about what I've been calling my existential crisis. I've been thinking about my feeling that something in my life requires change. Something in my life is missing. And go with me here. What came through is that the real issue is that I am seeking my identity in the attributes of my experience, in the world of duality. That's where I'm hoping to locate, hoping to somehow discern or identify my identity. And of course, that never actually happens, because my actual identity is the essence. It's the unmanifest. It's the non-existent in the world, but not of it, non-existent in the world, perceptive witness consciousness that only ever observes all those things in the world. So as I try to attach identity to any of these things, I'm immediately limited. I'm immediately frustrated. And and as I reflect, as I observe, I become immediately aware that that's not true, that I'm not actually these things. So it's an experience of continual frustration to try to locate my identity there. It's like, this isn't an existential crisis. It's a crisis of misplaced existentiality. I'm looking for my, and because as a conscious being, as a human being, I'm aware on some level, maybe not always consciously, but I'm on some level aware that my existence, my identity, is infinite. I feel that. I know that because that is the nature of consciousness. So then as I try to but then there's the limited part of me that needs to know who it is and wants to know what it is and how it'll work and what it needs to change and what it needs, that all the actual composite, the composite me. There's a part of me that wants to locate that infinite identity within that, and so I keep trying to invest it. I keep trying to imbue. So I'll imbue creativity with infinity, and then I'll start, and then I start becoming overly fixated on areas of my life or things in my life, or it can be relationships in my life. It can be anything. I become overly fixated on those things, people, practices, ways of being, things, ways of knowing. It can be knowledge, any form of identity that exists, whether it's material or subtle. It's like I'm trying to grab hold of the world and say, well, this is what I am. This is who I am. I'm trying to locate my identity in a limited, within the realm of limited existence, and that's not where it is. And I can't ever succeed in that project. I can only attach for a while, maybe feel okay for a while, and then have another existential crisis where I wonder what it's all about and why I'm here and what the ultimate. And it was like seeing that, I was like, oh, well, relax about it. Maybe that, and it's a subtle thing, because it's not just about relaxing, although it is. It's also about a continued willingness to not know. And I think that's why it's exhausting. I think that's why it's so hard, and why spiritual practices and traditions place so much emphasis on kind of discipline and practices that keep us in touch with the truth and with reality, because our mind wants to know so badly. So this open loop of an identity that ultimately is, my identity is nothing, that there's no such thing. My mind is continually trying to close it. It's trying to capture something, anything that fits the bill. And so it's simply relaxing and kind of like saying, I'm just not going to worry about that anymore. It's very unlikely to work, because the mind is not going to stop doing that just because we decide to take a break. There's another level of poise. There's another level of presence required. But intellectually, we can relax from the notion that that process is ever going to be fulfilled. Because as long as we believe that that process might work, we're kind of in trouble, because now we're gonna actually try. Now we're gonna think that those thoughts that are promising that fulfillment of that somehow infinite identity managing to manifest itself, we're gonna think that that's a process that might actually go somewhere, and we're gonna pour a lot of time and energy and attachment into it. So at least intellectually, there's a sense of like, okay, I've seen the mechanism here of how this works and I get it. And so I don't need to keep trying that. That doesn't mean my mind won't try it and that I won't catch my mind at the process of that. But it means on some level, I have an understanding. I have the wisdom to know that that's not ever going to work. Sadhguru talks about, he tells this story, and I'm finally, like, that was also one of the things that was percolating in my mind as I was having this realization. Talks about this tradition in India. It's like a courting ritual thing where a woman will dress up covered in, like, I think it's metal kind of bangles, and it's like a whole kind of full body armor type thing. And a man will try to he'll try to basically undress her. But the suit is put together in such a way that it's impossible to take apart. It's vastly intricate and essentially impossible to figure out how to take it apart. There's only one pin. There's one pin located somewhere that nobody's supposed to know, that if you pull this one pin, the whole thing falls apart. All the rest of it falls apart. And he describes that. The reason he tells that story is, he says that pin in this work, that pin is identity. If you pull the pin of identity, the whole thing, all the barriers drop away. Everything falls away. So, the loaded question of my existential crisis is, who am I? It's asking for identity, but who am I? Think about it. The question, who am I, is expecting to be answered. And all of those answers are the problem. So that's what's so frustrating about an existential crisis, is because it feels like it feels like there's no answer. There's no right answer. Yeah, there's no right answer. That's not a problem. It's not that all the same things are true. None of these are the right answer. None of them feel quite right. But what we take away from that, and what we how we understand that non-answer, and how we understand the insufficiency of all the answers that we're groping for, is the key. That's the key. It's not that we're just haven't it's not that somewhere out there in the manifest world there's the right answer and we just haven't found it yet. That's not it. That's not how it works. It's, what do we extract from the continued experience and the continued realization that none of these answers are sufficient. And they're not just partially insufficient, they're completely insufficient, because they're not where identity lies. So this idea of pulling the pin of identity as a kind of ultimate liberation makes a lot of sense to me. So like I said, kind of a big one. Thanks for watching, folks. Much love. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.